Bonjour et bienvenue. In this lesson, we continue with our conjugation of the first group verbs, la conjugaison des verbes du premier groupe. And our tense is le présent de l'indicatif. As we said before, le présent de l'indicatif corresponds to the English present simple and present continuous. And we said to be able to conjugate in this tense, all we've got to do is use certain endings. For je should end in E, tu, es, il and elle, I as well. For nous, ons. For vous, iz. And for il and elle in the plural, ent. That was what we said in our previous lesson. But there are a few special cases that we want to have a look at today. One of those cases being verbs that end in ger. So we're still talking about the first group verbs that end in er, but we want to have a look at an extra letter, ger. There's a specific case, and there's something extra that we need to do in this scenario. Now, one common verb in this category is manger. We all know manger. So the sound is j, manger, manger, j is dragged. So if we go to conjugate, we say we remove the er. What we're left with is man. And then we add our ending. So we start je mange, tu manges, il, elle mange. When we get to nous, we say nous mangeons. The sound is terrible. It's not the same sound as in the infinitive manger. So this is why we need to add an extra E to maintain the sound in the infinitive. So for nous, we add an E before our usual ending ONS. So we say nous mangeons. That way, mangeons resembles the infinitive, manger, the same dragged J sound. Mangeons. Nous mangeons. Vous mangez. Il, elle mange. So do we get it now? If the verb ends in ger, we still follow the ending of ons for nous. The only difference is we add an extra E just before ons so that we have that sound Jean, Jean, as in the infinitive. So some common examples are de ranger, de ranger. We also have corriger, corriger. And then we have partager, partager. And then we have changer, changer. Then another common one will be juger, juger. That's our first scenario. Second scenario is about verbs that end in cer. So we're still in the first group in that the verb still ends in er, but we add an extra, we have a look at an extra letter there, which is C. A common example will be the verb placer, placer. The sound is C at the end, placer. So we go to do our conjugation, same endings or same template. We say je place, tu places, il, elle place, nous plaquons. There's a problem there. Plaquons, plaquons, plaquons. The infinitive says placer, S sound. So in this case of ger where we added an E, this time around we're not adding an E, we're adding something to the C, something right underneath the C, like a 5 without the horizontal line in 5. It's called la cédille. So this letter in French now is called cédille, cédille. And once you add this little accent underneath the C, it takes the sound of S. So we don't need to add an E as we did for the verbs ending in ger. So for verbs ending in cer, once you get to nous, you have to change the C there to cédille. This half of 5 without the horizontal line is cédille underneath C. And that becomes s. So we have nous plaçons. Vous placez. Il, elle place. Now, as you have observed, the only problem we have here is with nous. Nous. In the case of GER, it was nous that had the problem, that we had to add an extra E for GER. And in the case of verbs ending in CER, we also have a problem when we get to nous. So we don't add an E when the verb ends in CER. We use a CCD. This thing that looks like half a 5, right underneath the C, it gives C the sound of S. So that was that case. And now our third scenario has to do with verbs that end in ETER or ELER. Now, in this case, we have two problems, and they concern nous and vous. Nous and vous. So one common example of a verb in this category is acheter. Acheter ends in ETER. Now, if you have a look at the verb, it doesn't have an accent in it at all. But when we go to conjugate it, in the present tense, we add an accent. And this happens in a 1, 2, 3, 6 pattern. And I'm saying 1, 2, 3, 6 pattern because 1 is je, 2 is tu, and 3 is il and elle, 4 is nous, 5 is vous, il and elle in the plural is 6. So these changes only occur in a 1, 2, 3, 6 pattern. So the change will only happen to je, tu, il and elle in the singular, and il and elle in the plural. The changes do not affect nous and vous. So we go to do the conjugation of acheter. We say j'achète. Now you see the little accent on top of the E. Now this little accent after the E is called accent grave, or if you like, grave accent in English. If it slopes downwards before the E, that's accent aigu. That's not what we're talking about. Let it slope after the E, it's called accent grave. And it gives E the sound of E. So for acheter, we continue with our same endings as per the verbs of the first group, but we must add an accent on that E. J'achète. Tu achètes. Il achète. Elle achète. Nous achetons. Now the accent disappears completely. Vous achetez. Il, elles achètent. The accent comes back. So there's that 1, 2, 3, 6 pattern. The accent falls on 1, 2, 3, and then the 6th subject pronoun. And notice that the sound also changes. So when we start up with je, we say j'achète. Tu achètes. We had the sound of eh. But when we got to nous, we had the sound of e. Nous achetons. Vous achetez. And then we go back to the sound of e. Il, elles achètent. Some common examples in this category would be geler. Geler. We have ensorceler, grommeler. Let me add that there's a possibility to have two different conjugations for these ones that end in ELER and ETER. The problem is French is always being upgraded, and we have a specific watchdog to look at the French language and make changes. We call them Académie Française or French Academy. They are responsible, and they made a change because there was so much confusion in here. They made a change there to say that, okay, all these ones that have two different conjugations, let's just make a rule. The rule says that only two verbs will be changed here. All the other verbs will follow the rule with the accent on the E. And the only two verbs that are exceptions to this rule are appeler and jeter. Appeler and jeter will take a double T in the 1, 2, 3, 6 pattern. For example, je jette. Je jette. For jeter, je jette, double T. Tu jettes, double T. Il, elle jette, double T. But for nous, Single T, nous jetons. Nous jetons. Vous jetez. Vous jetez. Single T. And we get back to il, elle, jette, a double T. Besides jeter and appeler, or let's have a look at appeler as well. J'appelle, double L. Tu appelles, double L. Il, elle appelle, double L. Nous appelons, single L. Vous appelez, single L. Il ou elle appelle, a double L. You also see the change of the sound. Once you get to nous, it's it. Nous appelons, vous appelez, il, elle appelle. So besides these two verbs, all the other verbs ending in E-L-E-R and E-T-E-R will take the accent. That's the new rule in French. So it's possible for you to see a different conjugation to what I just told you in the textbook that was before 1990. After 1990, you have this new conjugation with the accent. So don't be confused if you have a look in the textbook. For example, you have a look at ensorceler, having two L's. That's because that textbook is still following the old spelling. The new spelling, ensorceler, in terms of je, will be j'ensorcelle, with an accent graph right on top of the E, not with a double L. So that's a possibility, just so you don't get confused. It's just about remembering the rules. Once you remember the rules, it's pretty easy. For verbs that end in GER in the present, once you get to nous, add an E. For verbs that end in CER, once you get to nous, add a CCD. That's short 5 or half of 5 underneath the C. Then for verbs that end in ELER or ETER, you put an accent graph on the E, except for appeler and jeter, which take a double consonant. That's it. Too easy. Maybe you can have a go at a few of them, try to conjugate them in your own time, and see how you go. Merci, au revoir et à bientôt.